Hello and welcome to another edition of Real Day Trading. As you can see, we're at 4,500 right now. At one point today, we were at 5,200, but we have a number of trades on and I want to go through them with you. So without further ado, let's start. Okay, before I actually start, let me start with this. I've gotten a lot of questions from people on algo lines and trend lines and this line and that line. Number one, if you think they are subjective or you're drawing them in a subjective way, you're not doing it correct. You should be able to draw algo lines on your chart. Someone else independent of you should be able to draw them and they should match up perfectly. If you cannot do that, you still haven't gotten it. So that's number one. Number two, it takes time to get it right. So you're not going to get it in a day or 2 days. That's why this is instructional. You should be looking at the charts, seeing where I've drawn the lines, trying to replicate them yourselves. It does not mean jump into a bunch of charts, draw these lines, and enter trades, because I've seen people who are doing that. Don't do that. It took me months to figure out how to do this correctly and then how to add to it. You're not going to get it in a day. And I'll modestly say I'm really friggin' fast. So it takes time. And you can even see here, we have, I'll show you, I'm going to go to Apple, right? So here's Apple, and this is the algo line chart for Apple. And 150.50 lower point, 182.70 upper point, 179.64 point of resistance. Now, if I put here a trend line chart of Apple, you'll see it's very different. Now, first off, you don't need to start at high volume candles. Trend lines, you can pretty much start wherever you want, as long as they have enough touches on them. And what you get here, really, that one there, that's an ascending triangle with a bull flag. I mean, if you look close enough, you get an inverted head and shoulders. And then if you look even closer, you can just put your head through the monitor, because you can use trend lines to justify just about any trade. That's why these other lines, the algo lines, are so specific. Look at the difference between them. Let's start with PG, which is a trade that hasn't gone our way yet. This is one of the reasons that we're not at 5,200, right? So we entered a short into Procter & Gamble. And you'll see here on the 5-minute chart that it started out the day down here. This is where we kind of entered the short. And it spent the rest of the day gaining relative strength and traveling up. So we're still in the trade. Would we get out of this trade? That's where it helps to look here. Here's the first downward sloping algo line right here. Here is the upward sloping one, both of them starting in high volume candles, both of them with several touches on it. They intersect at 154.58. And if you were to draw a line right at around 154.58 all the way through here, you would see the price hovering right there, right here, starting around here. Can't get through, can't get through, can't get through, tries to get through, can't get through, drops down, slowly climbs back up. Looks like it's going to get through. Nope, can't get through, can't get through, barely, can't get through. Looks like it's having some trouble getting through. So now we have a very clear line in the sand for this trade, right? If Procter & Gamble, sorry, it's actually 153.90 something, right around there. Let me find out exactly what is that price. That is, it's 154.55. 154.55. So 154.55 is the resistance level for Procter & Gamble. Now this is a line you would never draw here. It cuts through candles, all that, but this is your intersection point. This is the point right here that if PG can get above it, you're out of the short. But if it continues to do what it's been doing, which is pushing up against it, and consider today, SPY was up, this stock is down, this short, much like our previous short in Home Depot, should come back around nicely. So that is why we entered that particular trade, and that is why I am not worried about it. Tesla, great trade today. Here, you can see you have the first cross at 897, right? Look what happens after it crosses that. Up it goes. Next cross, 953. Crosses that. Up it goes. Next one, 1024. Has some trouble getting through it. Bam, goes through. Up it goes here. Next one, 1122. Breaks through that. Up it goes. When it broke through 1122, I did a call debit spread of 1125, 1135. Well, the stock currently sits at 1144, and that should be a full credit spread unless there's some sort of serious pullback in Tesla, which at the moment certainly doesn't look like there will be, as it keeps breaking through every single algo point of resistance. So that tells me you have an incredibly strong stock. Let's go to our next one, Moderna. Now we shorted Moderna. And I'll even go here to the 5 minutes, and I told everyone on Twitter to short Moderna right around here. Look what happened right after I said to short it. Down it went. How did I know we should short Moderna? Well, take a look. Once again, very much like Procter & Gamble. Here to here, you get a clear price point here of around 178. And again, if you drew a line straight through that, you would see it acts starting here on January 20th as strong resistance for the stock. Keeps coming around, can't get through it. And today, once again, it bumps up against that level and seems to head down. Now, you also do have this upward sloping line here of support. And that comes into play at around 170. So we have a 165, 170 put debit spread. If it breaks here through, it will go down easily past 165. In fact, I could have made it a 160, 170 debit spread, because when you look at something like this, if it breaks through, it's going to break through. And it'll go down to 160, even maybe further. So could have actually spread that more. But I also have a very clear line in the sand once again. If Moderna cannot get through this point here of around 170, 150, then I would know to close the trade. Right? Okay. We also would know, just like with Tesla today, this stock would need to have relative weakness. Today, to break down below this line, it has relative weakness. Tesla had relative strength. It is inherent within these stocks when they get to these price points. These price points are like centers of gravity. In order to get escape velocity from them, you need something other than just SPY pushing you. You need to have your own strength. And that's what relative strength and relative weakness is. Take a look at the sympathy play of pins. Pins right here. Quickly drew this, so forgive if it's not perfectly connected here, but here you have pins where it broke above this resistance point here. Now, yes, it is in sympathy with Twitter, but if you look here at the 5-minute chart today, this thing was nonstop. Obviously, it cooled off, but here it didn't retrace even more than half of all of this gain, all these gains. So you had some profit taking here, which is normal, but here you do have a stock that jumped up above its 50-day moving average and did it with really good relative volume. So we have this lower bound, this upper bound algo line here, which now would act as support, and that gives us our exit point if pins decides to drop below it. If not, it is a pretty good launch pad for pins, which should have a pretty clear runway all the way up to around 32. Go to the next trade here. We have Facebook. Go to Facebook here. Go to daily chart. There you go. There's your little meta, right? Got a lot of lines here. Everyone's got lines, 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 lines. You'll find one thing you can do is draw the lines, the algo lines, and you'll start seeing almost geometrically what's happening with the stock. Right now, it is in this clear corridor right here, right? You can see this corridor. I could extend this out like that. And there it is. You can see here a base of support that this algo line is providing, which is pretty strong. It's holding this corridor together. It came up off the low here, and then an orderly progression. Now, if it manages to break here at 241, well, one, you've already made $8 on the trade, so you probably would have taken profit before that, but if you held it, this would be the point to add right here, because you also have this right here. This is a high volume candle, comes over and across, 1, 2, almost 3 touches, and it creates an intersection price point. That intersection price point was 230.89. When Facebook went through that intersection, that tells me we have more upside potential. This acts as resistance here, this price point. This is where an alert would have been placed. So here, Facebook triggers the alert, right? So at 230.89, and we go to the 5-minute, 230.89, you're looking right around here, you get the alert triggered, and you go long. All right, so we are long on Facebook at 235, 240, call debit spread. We have FSLY. Here's an interesting one. Okay. 1, starting candle, high volume, not earnings. 6 touches as it goes downward sloping from February 23rd all the way to March 28th. 2, unit intersection creates a price point of strong support. Here you have your uptrend line here. That probably should be 2. This should be 2. And this should be 3. There you go. Okay, 2. Uptrend line created on 318 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 touches on it. This is 5, it's 4. A lot of corrections there. Okay. Now we have our uptrend line and it creates an intersection point. That is at 1790. That is breached for here on March 29th. When it is breached, you also now have a horizontal line right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touches on that horizontal line. That creates a new price point of 1884. Today, that's breached to the upside again. Now you have two clear breaches. 1, 2. Now we're here. You have this upward sloping line of resistance, but because it's upward sloping, the stock grows with the line, right? So as it keeps going up, the slope of the line allows the stock to keep going up as resistance gets higher and higher. That's why these upward sloping lines of resistance are, yes, they're resistance, but they're kind of malleable because they increase with the slope of the stock. As you can see, FSLY from 16 to 1929 never breached the upward sloping line of resistance, but the line's slope just grew with it. This stock can go all the way to 24 and never breach this line, and that's fine, as long as it keeps breaching the intersections, and that is what FSLY is doing. Our next stock, GDX. Now this one is a little odd because this is very sector dependent, right? It's gold. You do have a clear point here of 39.40. The stock is barely below it at the moment. Because of that sector rotation, I'm giving it a little bit more room to breathe. And it tends to be counter to SPY, so it acts as a good hedge. If SPY were down tomorrow, GDX is a very good chance would be up. We also have a short on INTC. And you can see, by the way, this is very similar to the line that we talked about before, creating that price point there. And that price point is at 49.15-ish. That is exactly where INTC is. And that's exactly the point it could not get through today. So I'll go to the 5-minute on this and look at this. SPY kept going up, right? INTC could not break through this point right here. Oh, you can even see the edges of the point. Could not break through. That alone tells you how meaningful these points, these price points are. Because if this was just a simple, here's your upward, here's your downward, right? And extend it out, extend it up. Did it breach it or not breach it? Then you would look at this 5-minute chart and go, okay, well, it lost relative strength. It's just in consolidation. No, it didn't. It hit an algo price point. That is why it couldn't increase, because this is actually not relatively strong. It never was. It's relatively weak. SPY drags it up here, but then it does not have its own strength to break through this center of gravity. There's no escape velocity, which generally means that unless there is some stimulus to push it through, or the market just explodes upward tomorrow, we can expect INTC to retrace. We'll be watching it closely, but again, we have a specific price point. If it breaches here and to the upside, we know to close the trade. And that's the other beauty of this method, which it gives you very clear lines of where to exit your trades. There's not even any, thought about it. If it breaches those price points to the opposite effect of the direction of your trade, you exit the trade. The one, two kind of spec positions we have. One is Geo. Geo's not really a spec position because it is actually a pretty strong stock, right? And the Algo price point here was 664. And you could see on the 5-minute, this is where it breached it right here. And look what happened the moment. And I called it out on Twitter again. I said, look for Geo to start moving up. The moment it breaches it, look, you have the stock here in consolidation right around 655 all day. And it breaches here. And then all of a sudden, look at the volume come in. Well, come in, go up. Come in. By the way, come in means go down. I know, weird. You can see what happens here. Once again, proof of the meaningfulness of these price points. Right there. Bam. Off it goes. We do have one spec trade, and that's just because of the history of this NFT-driven stock. You could see here on the daily chart what this stock is capable of doing. Capable of going from 2 all the way to 73. I remember that, by the way. I got a piece of that back then. And usually it has these periods of activity that are followed by some very strong burst upward. And today, here's your algo lines, but there's no real point of even drawing algo lines on a stock like this. This is just a cheap stock that tends to explode for no damn good reason. Sometimes it's a short squeeze, sometimes it's an NFT press release. Who the hell knows why everyone all of a sudden buys TKAT and didn't 2 days ago? But great. So we grabbed a bunch of spec $4 calls for TKAT just to see $5 calls, sorry. Just to see what we get. Because I like to have at least one spec position. We did actually well with CLVS, right? We had that as a spec position and we took profit this morning on it. So this one's a little bit more expensive than normal, but we have 8 contracts at 50 cents each. So we have around $400 into the spec position, which again is a little bit more than you should have, right? So those are our positions. That's what we have. And the method is going well. If anything, I will soon have to reduce the number of trades, but I'm kind of caught between wanting to reduce the number of trades to also I am still experimenting with the method. And I want to make sure I am looking at all different types of algo line intersection combinations. And at the end of the day, this is really about just setting alerts at the correct price points and knowing that if those alerts are triggered, there is a high probability that all your other checkboxes, does it have good volume? Does it have relative strength? Is it the market strong? Are all going to be checked. Right? Oh, I have one more actually. I grabbed it right at the bell. Microsoft. Microsoft was strong all day and it finally barely breached this point here, this algo point of 315 today, like 10 minutes before we closed. So I quickly grabbed one 315 call. It's pretty much the exact same call we had early this morning and we took profit on. So we just bought it again at, I think, pretty much the same damn price. And tomorrow we'll see. If it goes up, we'll have taken profit twice on the same call. So there we have it. Those are the trades. Please study these charts, learn them, and try to draw these on your own, but do not trade off of it unless you understand what you're doing. And keep the charts as clean as you possibly can when you're drawing these lines. If you'll notice, if I take SPY off here, there's nothing else here. There's no moving averages, there's VWAP, there's nothing. Clean chart that you can just look at and draw. Look at Microsoft, look at that upward. That's just a, right? And now here you have a slight downward, right? If you were doing trend lines, sorry to get off topic here, but you know, you'd have a huge, long trend line here, right? All the way going up there. You'd have a corridor, and then you'd have your other corridor, right? Because you can draw trend lines on whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. Like that. Here's your upward corridor for Microsoft, and then you start here, and then you have a downward corridor for Microsoft. And now it looks like you are starting to head back up again. So that's pretty matches pretty well with SPY, by the way. If you were to look at SPY in the same time frame, you'd have that upward corridor, then horizontal down, and then back up again. Very similar, same pattern. Okay, so there we have it. There's your update. That's what we're doing, and hopefully by tomorrow we will be at a point where we're starting to get closer to the $15,000 goal. And until then, you will hopefully be obviously watching more videos, reading the damn wiki, and then when this is all done, this will be added to the damn wiki, which you will already be reading as I add it. So it'll be like a double wiki. Okay, good night, everyone.